and welcome to our final Hug event for the year. And nice to see you all here. So today we're going to run through some of the key changes HubSpot's had. There's been a lot of them this year, but these are the ones that we've kind of seen as stand out in recent times that have actually made a difference to some of our clients. And certainly keen to see in the chat from any of you if there are any other questions you've got or any other bits and pieces you want to cover today. Certainly happy to cover those. We're also coming to you live from the Refuel Creative Studio here in Port Adelaide. And today we have set up all of our cameras and lights and everything. The only thing I forgot to do was put a face on. So anyway, let's roll on from there. So first things first, let's have a look at this new record overview tab. So we'll just share screen now. And hopefully this is going to work nicely for me today. So far, so good. How are we looking, Ryan? Sweet, very good, awesome. Okay, here we go. So today we're having a look at this new overview tab, which was released shortly after inbound. And ultimately, I think it's sometimes when you're looking at the activities feed, which is, still the default, I think, particularly if you're like us and you love your integrations and have about 50 of them attached to HubSpot, it can get quite messy to read through. It can get quite difficult to sort out wheat from the chaff and information that's important. So I think in terms of who this record overview tab is really useful for is really probably more so the sales team. So at least that way they'll be able to quickly see what information, that's going to be helpful to them. So if there have been any recent emails, which ones are the most recent, they don't need to know that this prospective contact has actually been through 20 workflows since they last did an email, for example. The companies that this contact's associated with, any deals that might be in play, any service tickets that they need to follow up, subscriptions, and then payments, which if you're located in the US, you'll be able to use that function as well. But this is the default setting, but you can actually change what you want shown on the overview tab. So we just click this button here, customize this tab, and then you have a couple of options. You can edit the default view, which I think for some people that might be what they're looking for, what's useful, or alternatively you might have different teams that need different views. So if you've got a team who are the sales team might need information that's different to perhaps a team that's looking at service. So say you've got your service teams and your sales teams. Maybe the sales team, you just want to show them the deals, recent email contact and all recent communications. Whereas with the service team, they probably don't need to see any upcoming deals. They probably just need the ticketing thing. So it's really about sort of presenting your internal teams with the information that's going to be useful to them. So let's go ahead and create one for the Refuel team. So here's one that we've got earlier. And then you can just go forward and hit the cards that you want to add. So in this case, if it's for the support team, we'll want to see which companies they're associated with. We'll want to see the tickets. And realistically, recent communications are probably still going to be useful. But probably what is more useful is seeing the tickets right at the top and then swapping it through from there. Very good. Save. And that's done. So depending on, the user. So for me, I am part of the support team. So hopefully this will have, if I go back to the contact, it should have changed over the overview, which it has. So based on the fact that I am a member of the support team in our portal, that's why it has shifted over the views for me. So now we're not seeing the deal data there. We're not seeing the payment information or any of the other things. We're only seeing what's relevant to the person at play. If there are any questions as we go along, feel free to drop them in the chat and I'll come back and check on the chat as we're going through. Okay, so moving on to actually, there's something else I did want to show you on the contact record that initially we were very excited about, and then as we kind of got into it, then we're a little bit disappointed, but that's okay. The other thing you can now do with on the contact record is you can obviously create the notes, the emails, the phone calls. You'll all be fairly familiar with these, the task and the scheduling a meeting. They're all fairly familiar to you. But now you're able to actually log SMS, LinkedIn message, but more importantly, a WhatsApp message. We have certainly seen from our clients that if they don't have established sort of communication channels for their clients, WhatsApp ends up being a default, particularly if they're servicing international markets. So there's an opportunity here to log those WhatsApp messages, which otherwise I think are sort of not really captured in the CRM. One of the drawbacks, though, is that you do need to have a proper WhatsApp account. So I think it's a business account, Ryan, I think. Yep, WhatsApp business account. So you do need a WhatsApp business account in order to use this integration. So for us, that has definitely been one of the limitations of it so far. But I'm sure that as we kind of see this integration develop further, maybe it'll extend further to those personal ones. Okay, so we have ticked off on the records overview, we've ticked off on WhatsApp integration. The next thing that I did want to cover was custom quote templates. So it is something for the sales team, definitely, but equally it's an opportunity for marketing to ensure that quotes that go out represent the brand accurately and do have that are easy for the person at the other end to read and to digest and that kind of thing as well. What we have found with them is that custom quotes kind of came in, there was a beta, then they kind of left, and then we weren't sure what was happening with them. So some of you might be using alternative proposal tools like PandaDoc or Quila, but now I think the custom quote templates are back here now in HubSpot, and they're back here to stay. So you would have seen this week that if you had any in the old quote format, those are now no longer available, and you do just have this is your basic option, your minimal option that they're coming through here. So let's have a look at what these quote templates look like. So hopefully the screen share is just following me along as I open these new tabs. So I've come straight in here to, this is in the settings area, so down to, if you came through manually in the top, you hit the cog, down to data management, and then go all the way down to quotes. Then we're clicking create customize quote template to create a new one. And these are different ones that are in the system. Some of these with our theme, some of them come from the CMS quotes theme. But let's, for the sake of argument, have a look at using something different here. So let's have a look at this one here. And essentially, we're very fortunate here that we've got a lovely drag and drop, which is very, very handy. So the quote name here is where, where it's really important to use all of the those merge tags, because essentially it'll be pulling in the data that the sales team are putting in. So the quote name, quote created. Again, we're kind of going through all these different parts. We would scroll down. Comments to buyer. Again, it's just taking in all that information that you normally would put in at the top. See if there are any other settings. All right, well, we're just going to call this a custom test for now. You also can set the domain for these quotes now. So we'll be using refuelcreative.com.au, but you might have a subdomain where you have them all sitting, where it's like quotes.refuelcreative.com.au, or you might have another one in mind. The locale, need to change this one up in this case for Australia. And this is where you can then jump in and edit the theme settings for the quotes. And then also edit CMS template here. So let's jump in and have a look at this. And this is really where we can set those colors. So we've used our brand colors in place here, set our global fonts, the button settings, and then finally, it's not showing. I'll just close this off. And we've got the banner font color there. Alrighty. So let's go back here and hit save. And then this will give us an option here to use this when we're moving through the quoting process. So we'll just kind of walk through that on this one, on a test deal. So I now have the minimal option, which is now the HubSpot default. And then we roll through now to what we're putting through as a custom test. So let's say we're doing, HubSpot onboarding. The content slug, if you wanted, you could actually change it and personalize it rather than having an alphanumeric sequence. So if you do have a quoting system or a way of identifying them, if you've got like quote numbers and things like that, you could use that and modify the slug, which is something new. Setting your expiration dates, again, none of this is particularly new. This is all kind of part of your same, but you can see that as we're kind of working through on the right there, it's starting to update that content as we're rolling through. Okay. Luke is our business development executive here at Refuel, so we'll leave the quote to come from him. We'll add that there. It looks like he's the buyer in this case, so let's close that. All right. Okay, in this case, where we're quoting a photo shoot, set our tax. You can still use your e-signature option if you so desire. And then this is the quote that we'll be seeing. So we'll go ahead and publish that for the moment, and then open it up on a new screen so you can see what it's going to look like when you go through and send it through to a client. There we go. Okie dokie. So if there's any questions at all, just feel free to jump on and let us know. Very good. So there were a couple of other things that we wanted to look at today. And one of those was actually a beta for customer journey reports. It is, I think, a good idea that HubSpot are trying to give marketers in particular as many tools as they can to really understand how customers are coming through from, seeing an ad and right through to then actually closing a deal. So it is important for us to try to understand that buyer journey. Here we go. But something that we have found with these is that it's still the journey builder in this case is still linear. So that is definitely one of the traps to look out for. So if you find that with your particular customer, they're kind of going all over the shop, which I think for most of us, that's what they do. They might look at an ad and then they might ignore you for a month, and then they'll look up a Google search, and then they'll come through on an organic search keyword. Then they'll contact someone, then they'll ghost someone, then someone else will contact them, and it's not necessarily going to happen in the same order. And then they might go back and see another Facebook ad and then come back again. So it's all quite messy. So that is definitely one of the limitations that we've found with the journey tools. It's like the sales pipeline in that it is assuming that this person will see this ad and then they will sign up for an email and then they will purchase a product from you, for example. But, so you may find that the data is incomplete, that the way you set your reports, and I think it'll just come down to a lot of experimentation with these reports. But let's have a look at it in any case. So if we set our contacts, we can choose. There's lots of different visualization options, as you would have seen with custom reports. You can look at creating these customer journey reports over here. So we'll just try the demo here. So essentially, this is where we can add in our touch points. So we might say, okay, well, this person's going to be a subscriber. Okay, that's fine. Let's close that. Choosing touch points. Okay, we'll run the report. So, okay. So that's what we're hoping it's going to look like, but I guarantee you that it's not going to look like that. All right. So let's try it with lead. We're going to say, because a lot of the contacts in our system are identified as lead. So let's start with that. We're going to say, okay, well, they're going to have, maybe it's an ad interaction. CTA click is probably more likely. CTA view. So you can see how they're really driving down into the depths of marketing here with these ones here. An email's been delivered. We're being generous now by saying something like that as opposed to just the open emails or clicking the links. We can have a look that they've watched a video, that they've played some media, perhaps. All right, let's have a look and see how that looks. I think this is all in the wrong order. So now let's swap the order around. So if we look at, might just remove that for a minute. We'll say there's a CTA view. CTA clicks. Let's say they're a lead, the email's delivered and media played. So let's leave that in there for now and see what happens. Let's run the report. And see what comes back. So yeah, I guess as we can see here, as soon as we've kind of got the CTA view, CTA clicks, so they click the CTAs, but then have they actually then converted to being a lead? So then the question then becomes, is the report right, or is the way that I've put the steps and the stages in right? Have I made the right assumption to say that the people who click on CTAs are leads? Or have I picked this wrong section? So this is definitely one of the limitations with this reporting that we've found, is that if people don't follow it, it just drops off. So even if we had, say, a CTA click and then a form submission in here, perhaps, let's try that. Report. So, yeah, okay, now we're seeing where that's going. All right. Sake of the pretty, let's try that refresh report. So on the one hand, it might highlight the way that some of your data is being sort of classified, whether it's actually classifying correctly, whether it needs more, whether you need to kind of look at the way that works. Potentially it might mean something along those lines, or it might mean that people aren't clicking through, or you haven't quite got the journey right. So I think that's kind of the game here, is that if we look at obviously we've got a longer time frame, so that's giving us a chance to look at some more data. So CTA views, then people actually clicked on it. So again, then the form view, then the people who actually looked at actually completed the form. how many emails were delivered, and then I think let's, for the completion, let's have a look at emails opened at the end there. So it really just depends on, you can customize this with any of these sections on the side. If you're running a lot of ads, you might start with ad interaction right at the top to see, okay, well, did they interact with an ad? And then did they see the CTA? If you're like traffic from ads, if the volume isn't that high, you may find that it just kind of doesn't really give you much input or much data. So it really just depends on how people are getting to your website and whether it's more important to know what the overall trend is in terms of, are they actually looking at the CTA, clicking through and then running off with it? Or is it, does it matter where they've come from initially? You've got other reporting tools, obviously, within HubSpot that'll show you the impact of ads. And certainly the campaigns tool, which I think we will have a look at in a minute as well, has had a bit of a facelift this year, and certainly is giving a little bit more flexibility to marketers in terms of what data they've got available to them. Okay, very good. So that's Journey Analytics, and again, you can change it up if you prefer, more of the, depends on what you like in terms of visualizations at the top. Whether you like the vertical funnel. To me, the vertical funnel is a depressing one, so I don't like looking at it that way because it gets very skinny very quick. Alrighty. Okay, well, let's backtrack out of here. And let's have a look at the campaigns tool. So there have been quite a few. So yeah, let's have a look at this one because I think I've got some bits in here. Maybe not that one. Okay. So let's see. Okay, let's look at one of these ones that's probably got a bit more. Yeah, let's try that. Okay, so Digital Adelaide is a conference that Refuel sponsors, and so we do quite a bit of support in terms of the marketing efforts behind it. So for those of you who are marketers, you would be familiar with this layout here where you've got, your overview, your attribution, new contacts. You're able to add the call to actions, any of the email activity that went on that's quite heavily leaning on email, any relevant landing pages to the overall campaign, social posts, of which there were roughly 1 million by the looks of it, any workflows, which I think in this case it's just one to say it's around the virtual pass. So we had a virtual ticket to the conference, and then the traffic as well. So this is based on email and organic social. So some of the shifts here is that we've always had this performance tab that's always been there. Certainly, first touch, last touch, being able to customize the data range. But this section here is definitely newer, and certainly the assets been listed out separately as well. So in terms of attribution, it's looking at attributing new contact creation to different assets. And again, this is all kind of worked out automatically for you. It's recording the interaction sources and surfacing them up so you can actually see them as well. And then in terms of the assets here, you actually can see them all in one place, which I think is, for people who are quite visual, it is a handy thing to look at. It certainly does just give you an idea of the activity, being able to see them all. But yeah, that's, it's just, I think, kind of giving a bit of richness to the campaigns tool that we've already been using so far. Okie dokie. Ryan, was there anything else you wanted to cover today on this one? Any other bits? I'm just going to stop screen sharing for a moment. I would love to hear if anyone's got anything else that they wanted to see in HubSpot. I know there's been quite a few changes this year. They've also introduced another thing I wanted to talk about was product recommendations. So if you're running an e-commerce site in Shopify, for example, and you're using HubSpot as your marketing engine, you are able to now use product recommendations. Again, they are at a fairly rudimentary level. They are, around, most recent products, the also best selling. So, kind of takes those sort of more commonly used ones. So if you've got a specific niche that you're trying to narrow in on, it is tricky to get HubSpot to do that without having to do everything manually. But again, it's nice to see that they are starting to evolve that side of marketing email. The other thing that more recently has come online is the approval process now for marketing. So that's now currently in beta, and I encourage you all to check that out. So you are able to have approvals for, someone can send an email to another team member for approval, so they can then review it, sign it off, and then it'll get scheduled out. Hopefully, we'll see a similar feature come towards social. I know that's something that has been a long-standing omission for the HubSpot social scheduling software. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what 2023 brings. Speaking of the social app, though, finally, HubSpot have created an area in their app now where you can actually post socials from the app on HubSpot, the HubSpot app on your phone. That one too has been a long time coming, and it's really great to see HubSpot start to step it up in that social space. So if you are out and about and you are capturing content on the fly on your phone, you don't have to post natively now. You can actually use the app, the HubSpot app, to then post out your schedule out content and send it out. It also then makes it pretty easy for you to duplicate the content if you are duplicating it across different platforms. Again, and I see some movement in that direction. All very good. Alrighty. So another couple of minutes. If there's any questions from the floor, feel free. Just kind of hang out for a bit. With that awkward silence, it's just as bad in a virtual setting. In fact, it's worse in a virtual setting because I can't see you all. All I can see is quite an intimidating camera in front of me and these lights beaming down on me. And I'm looking at the chat and I'm just like, is anybody out there? No. So it's, look, we're really thrilled to be Hug host this year, and hopefully HubSpot will have us back next year. We have grown our Hug community in Adelaide. I think we've almost doubled the number of members. So we're pretty happy with that for the year. But yeah, certainly happy to get more feedback from you all. I always welcome feedback, constructive or otherwise. So feel free to drop it in the comments. Yeah, I think they're questioned out. Well, I'm questioned. I haven't even. All good. Probably the only other thing that it's just come to mind. So we're talking about approvals and things. It might be something that you've used. It might not be something you've used, but this is for the marketing teams out there. So this came in at pretty early in the year, but this commenting function, I'm not sure how many of you have used it. Hey, I'm not sharing screen, so I've been told, all right, I better do that. Hang on a second. Bear with me. How awkward. Just start talking about something and don't show it. Yeah, good one. So one of these things that we've got here, here we go, is the comments feature. So I'm not sure if you've seen it, you've used it, or if you have much use for it, but certainly we've found, particularly when working with clients on the final stages of a HubSpot CMS build, or doing new landing pages or any of that kind of thing, this commenting function's actually been really helpful, so that you're able to kind of have that real-time collaboration within the platform. So, you know, from a services perspective, whether you are the web developer in-house or the marketer in-house, or whether you're working with an external agency like Refuel, you know, using these comment functions can be really, really helpful. You know, so it's as simple, it's just like tasks, it's just like any other area where you can tag people, notes and all that kind of thing. So in this case, we'll tag Ryan and say, Ryan, this page looks good, smiley face, maybe something like that. Or equally, if there's something wrong, or like, hey, check this typo, check this, check that, you could equally do that as well. So what will happen now is Ryan will get a ping on his HubSpot through whatever notification method he's set. I think it could be, you know, going through Slack, it could be an email, or it could just be within the app itself saying, hey, Robina's tagged you in this comment. And, you know, if he's willing to play ball with me today, he's going to reply. But if he's not, that's equally fine. But equally, yeah, so there's the option there for him to then come back to me and say, you know, hopefully something nice and PC. That's what I hope for every day of the week. So that's kind of, you know, a feature that I think might have sort of slipped under the radar a little bit. You know, they did kind of bring it in as a beta and then kind of released it, but there really wasn't much fanfare around it. But we certainly have found it to be a very useful tool for sure. I have seen that there is a question from the floor. So Sam asks, which of the new features or updates will have the biggest impact on how you use HubSpot? Okay, that's a big question. I think the socials one, I mean, social media is definitely one of my favorite areas of digital marketing across the board. But for me, I feel that that's a signal from HubSpot that they're now sort of trying to compete with other social media scheduling software out there. You know, certainly you've got other alternatives like Hootsuite, like Sprout Social, where, you know, they are predominantly social media scheduling software. And so they have a much richer feature set. And even Octopost would be the same. If you're in the business-to-business space, that's one also worth putting on your consideration list. So the fact that HubSpot are making these moves and actually sort of bringing in line some of the sort of features that we've come to expect from bigger players in the market, hopefully that's an indication that on the roadmap that they are going to invest more in those social tools, so that we can kind of still get all the data in one place. So that's, for me, that's definitely one of the newest features that's the most exciting, I think, for me, because it does signal other things. But in terms of the updates that are going to have the biggest impact on how I actually use HubSpot day to day, I would have said customer journey reports when I first heard about them, but now that I'm using them, there's limitations like everything else. But it does excite me that, you know, we are bringing into, I guess, the mainstream, you know, more of that conversation around complex buyer journeys. Because realistically, that's, I think, what it comes down to, is that buyer journeys aren't as simple as we wish. Like, it'd be so good if they could just do the awareness. You do the awareness and they see it and then they think about it and then they look for it and then, you know, one more time, one more touch point and they're going to buy. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work that way. And so I think with these kind of the evolution of the reporting, sort of certainly the data-driven attribution that we're seeing more and more across the board in digital, you know, certainly gives, I think, a little bit more of an idea around and sort of lending weight to that argument around the complexity of buyer journeys. So for me, I think that's the feature that I am excited by, but also was slightly disappointed at the same time. But yeah, those are probably the big things for me. You did reply to my comment. Oh, well, we better go share and check that out. Hang on. You need to refresh the screen. Okay, all right, I'll refresh the screen. All right, let's go find this comment and hopefully it's something friendly. So I hope. Let's try that. Okay. Oh, look, I have a little note. See, so here we go. So here is the little dot to say there's a comment here waiting for me. Equally, if I close that, there should be one over here as well. Nope, that's just spam. That's fine. Okay, let's try that again. Maybe. All right. No, it's just lagging behind. All right, let's have a look here. And here is Ryan's. Lovely. Thank you, Ryan. So yeah, again, like just kind of closing the loop on that one there. All righty. Cool. Here we go. We've got another question. Are there any insights for what features we can expect next year? Yeah. So next year, there are HubSpot does publish its product roadmap, and I'm happy to share the link with you all after this session today. But yes, certainly, I think we are going to start to see some of these elements ramping up. I mean, the fact that they're bringing in approvals for the marketing email tool, again, as I was saying, that's given me hope that they're going to do the same for the social tool within the marketing suite, because that's definitely one of the we kind of do a makeshift thing around here sometimes, like when we're using it, particularly if clients are only using HubSpot. It's not foolproof, but you set it as a draft and then send the link off to someone else to say, hey, check this out, and then publish it if it's approved, or schedule it if it's approved. And that kind of has been a rudimentary fix that I think lots of people who have been using HubSpot for social media management have been putting in play. But yeah, hopefully we'll see a more formal version of approval come through. And the fact that they've been working on it for email certainly gives me hope for the social tool. Is that? I don't think we're getting payments next year in Australia. Payments next year, yeah. See, payments I think would be awesome. But yeah, I don't think that's coming to Australia. So in case you guys haven't caught up on that, this year HubSpot released a payments feature, which unfortunately for us here in Australia is only available in the US. However, if you are selling in the US market and you do have US clients, you absolutely can use that payment button. We're certainly looking at ways to use that with our US clients that we service. So, you certainly have that option if you do service that market. But yeah, certainly HubSpot payments, for Australia next year. I mean, I think we can all have wishful thinking and look into our crystal balls, but yeah, look, realistically, it's probably still more than 12 months away. The comment chat feature, is that available on pages like marketing, emails, socials, and reports? So we did see, if we go back over, so I'll just share screen again. Actually, I'm still sharing screen now, so that's okay. So yeah, so we've certainly got that in websites. We've got that in the landing pages. I did see it briefly in email, so we'll just kind of quickly run through all the different places we can find it. So if we were here, it's just a client email. Again, you'll find it on the right-hand side here. So there we go. So if we needed someone to double check something, you can then tag them again and run that through again. Again, like this feature here, I think was a really under sort of pushed feature. And for those of us who collaborate with internally and or externally, certainly has been a big thing. So for landing pages, you'll see it there. You certainly see it for, let's have a look, we've got any drafts in here. Very good. And yeah, as I suspected for socials, not yet, is probably hoping that we'll start to see some more sort of that kind of support coming in for socials. But yeah, at this stage, it's not available for socials. But certainly when we were in the campaign section, they have brought comments into the campaigns. And in fact, they keep reminding me how much we don't use it because we're not actually writing notes to each other in the comments. But yeah, certainly you do have it there in the campaign feature as well. No worries. Okay, were there any other questions before we kind of wrap this thing up? Anything left unsaid, as they might say? All good? That's kind of awkward. I look down and I look up and look down, look up. So again, just wanted to say thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting us this year for our Hug events. We are hoping to return to some face-to-face ones in 2023. So best to keep your eyes peeled. We'd love to have you here at our office in Port Adelaide. And with that, I got to say thanks to our team who have been putting on Hug events all year. So thanks to Ryan and Ollie, who have presented quite a few this year as well. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. You have a wonderful Christmas. Happy holidays.